What we're going to be talking about today is kind of an overview, exploration of creating meetings with Cisco WebEx APIs. So we have a whole bunch of WebEx things now. WebEx is starting to merge as a brand, as a cloud service, as products, and as APIs and as a developer experience. And for users, of course, as well. So we have WebEx meetings, WebEx teams, WebEx devices. All of these things are programmable, right? So they have APIs. They have the ability to be automated. You can integrate them with other things, other services, cloud services, services and applications on-premise, small scripts that you write, little pieces of code that you inject, or you can take the full WebEx Teams or meetings experience and embed those rich collaboration capabilities into your own applications. So if you have a website, if you have a mobile app, if you have a PC app that could benefit from having a Cisco high quality, secure, easily managed, and just delightful collaboration experiences built in, it's a possibility. So we're going to talk about some of the capabilities and the SDKs and APIs that are associated with these various WebEx entities and things. And hopefully you'll see a pattern where all of these things work together. They're all under the covers based on standards. They all under the covers have APIs that you as developers or customers can use to integrate and enhance your workflows and your workforce. What makes this really exciting and interesting for me is the concept of collaboration in context. Let me explain what that is. We all have, or at least I have, WebEx Teams on all my devices, right? So my phone, my Mac, my PC, I've got a DX on my desk, I've got a Cisco phone that's attached to the cloud. The WebEx Teams collaboration experience is everywhere. I use it all day long. I join meetings, I talk to people, I exchange text and files and all that good stuff. But the platform itself can only do so much, right? You can talk to people, but if you want to share a file, you got to go look for it and upload it using the UI, which isn't too hard. But if you do that a bunch of times during the day, you know, it slows down. If you want to create a new WebEx Teams space for conversation, something like that. You have to kind of do that manually. You go in and create a title, you add the people in there that you want. It's a little bit of a manual process. The idea with collaboration in context is that by integrating your workflows with your applications, with the data that your users are using on a daily, minute-to-minute basis, by integrating those things with the collaboration features, you can make those collaboration features contextually aware, right? So if I set up a new meeting in Outlook, I can put @meeting as the location. The WebEx hybrid calendaring service will use the APIs that we're going to look at here in a second to automatically create a new WebEx Teams space that has the same title as your meeting. All the attendees that are part of that meeting will be put into that WebEx Teams space, and you can actually use that WebEx Teams space to conduct the video session, right? To do the call. So it's a contextually aware thing. We'll see that in a few minutes when we talk about embedding collaboration into applications themselves. So keep that in mind. Use cases for collaboration are many. You can go here to see all some of the high interest and very cool case studies that the WebEx folks have put together for you. All of these use cases pretty much can be augmented by applications, by integrations. You can make them data aware, contextually aware with your business processes and the users that are using these things on a daily and minute-by-minute basis. So if you're here in the DevNet zone, you're a little developer curious. You probably aren't a coder. There's not a lot of t-shirts out there, but you might be. And it may be a little intimidating to get started, right? So when we think of application developers, you think of old guys with beards in the dark typing at Unix terminals. But it doesn't have to be like that. It can. If you get all the way to the end of the spectrum, if you want to do a full development stack using the the low-level SDKs that we make available to you, great. But there's a whole spectrum of ways that you can integrate with Cisco WebEx in collaboration without getting that involved. And before you even start developing, it's good to be aware of all the things that are out there already, right? So Cisco uses these APIs to integrate these collaboration features with our stuff and stuff for key partners. We have a large ecosystem of third-party ISVs and developers that are using all these APIs to create solutions with a universe of other stuff. It's good to be aware of what's out there, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it's good as a developer, if you're an ISV, to see what's possible, right? So if you go out and see a partner that did something amazing, connecting some cloud service with on-premise collaboration that your users just have to have and are delighted by, you can say, hey, that's possible. What APIs did they use to do that? How hard would it be for me to do something similar and put my twist on it, right? So I would definitely invite you to check out the Cisco WebEx App Hub, which is right here. There are applications, solutions, little silly bots, all kinds of things that you can check out, download, trial, purchase, that can show you the possibilities of what you can do with collaboration in context with other applications and services. Many of these things are free. Some of them aren't. The ones that aren't, of course, are the good ones. So definitely be aware of that stuff. DevNet Exchange, great place to find solutions. We have the Ecosystem Exchange, which is similar to the App Hub in that third-party ISVs publish their solutions here. They're showcased not only for WebEx and collaboration, but all Cisco APIs that DevNet covers and supports are available here. But a lot of the really high-end and most powerful integrations are here. Code Exchange from DevNet. Is another great place to start. Code Exchange essentially is a big collection, a curated collection of high-quality GitHub repos. So if you know what a GitHub repo is, it's basically a packaged up code sample, an application, a tool, something useful that's been developed by the community, by Cisco. A lot of the repos up there are developed by me and the other dev evangelists in DevNet, as well as the community, right? So guys off the street I've never heard of will come up, submit a really cool sample application to Code Exchange, and all these things are available to you as a developer. So, don't start at the bottom and think you have to learn everything and reinvent everything, because 99% of the time the code's already been written better than I will ever be able to do it, because these guys tend to be experts, and it's a great place to steal, right? Copy and paste. Find out how they did it, and then take that code and use it as your own. So, say you get inspired. So you have a particular use case that isn't quite covered, an itch that can't quite be scratched by a third-party application, and you want to start developing. Well, we're going to take a look at some of the options, most of the options. I did a count after I built this deck, finished it up early this morning. I talk about 17 different ways to automate the creation and joining of meetings with Cisco WebEx. That's a lot. We're going to start from the easiest, which is just simply to cross-launch. All right? If you've ever used Cisco WebEx, created a meeting, got an invite with an Outlook, there's a link, right? Obvious. Been using it so long it doesn't hardly register. But this is a key piece of information, and it's a live piece of information. So from here in my web browser, this is just a standard link. If I click on it, it's going to launch me into the full WebEx meeting experience. So we can use that link. In fact, just about anywhere, right? So we can put that link into a web page. We can put it into an HTML email. You can put it into a Word document, right? A lot of applications out there, especially Office and things like that, will automatically recognize and launch a URL if it's just in there. So if you're automatically generating web pages, emails, PDFs, etc., and you have that meeting URL, you can put the collaboration experience right next to the data, right inside the document that you guys need to talk about. And it's a way to very easily, with essentially a copy and paste, create some integration. That can be extended to Android with Android intents, iOS, Windows, Mac. All of them have what are called custom URL handlers, right? So WebEx Teams, the WebEx meeting plugin for mobile and PC, those all look for the webex.com domain and any URLs that get launched across the OS system. They grab them, they route them over to the WebEx Teams or Meetings client and cross-launch, right? Directly into the meeting that you're talking about. So these typically can be done with a few lines of code in a custom application. Very easy. So don't discount the power of the URL. And if you're using the PMR, so the personal meeting rooms, really the only thing you need to know is the user ID, right? And I guess the domain. You don't even need the special meeting number. So you can very easily just tag this on the end of your emails, have that auto-generated, and your collaboration whiz. So clearly that's not all we're going to talk about today. We're going to get a little fancier and talk about creating meetings programmatically. And there's a couple different ways to think about that and to do that. So WebEx has been around for a long time. They were around when I got here at Cisco some 17, 18 years ago. And they've actually had APIs for most of that time, all of that time, that allow you to do just that. You can list meetings, you can schedule meetings, you can invite attendees and remove them. You can even manage, download the recordings, play them. You can get reports and analytics and statistics on who showed up to those meetings, right? So there's all kinds of APIs available for the WebEx Meetings Cloud that have always been out there. They are based on XML over HTTP. So these things were built way before REST, way before anything like that. For the most part, they're fairly simple to use. There's a little bit of learning curve to figure out what the XML fields are. But after that, hey, I need to do a create meeting. I give the meeting a name. The start date is empty. That means start it now. Make an HTTP post. Okay? Any programming language that's designed to run on a networking computer is going to be able to do an HTTP post. I'm sure somebody will find one that doesn't, but it's really, really easy to use, very powerful. And what you get when you schedule a meeting with this API is that URL, right? That special URL. And we'll see as well, you get a SIP URI. So what can you do with this? Well, it turns out a lot. A really cool thing that came out just recently that's been done by third parties before, but this is Cisco WebEx team developed and maintained, is a connector to LMS learning systems. So learning management systems like Moodle are out there being used across the world in K through 12 education, university education. And there's an interface where the professors or the teachers create their classes, put together the curriculum, interact with their students, grade things, right? So it's all online. Students also have a portal where they get a similar view with not quite so many options to do things. But what we've done is integrated WebEx meetings deeply into these learning management systems, right? So if you create a class that's Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 10 o'clock, you click a few buttons, and this integration will automatically set up those WebEx meetings. It'll embed the ability to join those meetings directly into the LMS when the students log in for the day. The recordings, right? So the classroom sessions are typically recorded. Those can be available later if the student missed the class. But again, it's contextual, right? So if I log in as a student, and I'm looking at my Wednesday 10 a.m. saying, I can't make it, I got a doctor's appointment. I can go in the next day and find that class and say, hey, there's the recording from yesterday, right? So it's collaboration in context. So check it out. I believe it's free to use and access. For WebEx Teams, creating meetings can be done very easily with the REST API. So if you've been around the last 2 years in the DevNet zone, we've had lots and lots of sessions on WebEx Teams REST APIs and bots and things like that. But creating a room, listing rooms, right? A room, what's now called a WebEx Teams space, that's a meeting space, right? These have been unified, as I understand, on the back end up in the cloud, so they're using the same cloud services. The UIs have been merged, so they have the similar look and feel. You can now record in these rooms. You can do everything you can do. Well, not everything. I don't know. Most of the things you can do in an old-style WebEx meeting. These are real meeting experiences, and they're based on the same technology as WebEx meetings. But they're designed to be more ad hoc, right? More agile, more small team oriented. Let's jump into a video call. You can create these meetings on the fly programmatically using the REST API. It's quite easy. You can add people into the room, remove them. You can also develop chat bots, by the way. We have several sessions on that. But the idea is that just as you can do with the WebEx Meetings API, you can create these meeting experiences programmatically. Again, REST is JSON over HTML, HTTP, so virtually any programming environment will let you have access to do that. So let's take it to the next step, right? So we're creating meetings and we're getting URLs and we're cross-launching people into it. Okay, that's cool. What if we want to take it a step further? And the idea is this, right? For example, if you're on mobile, you are a bank. You have a mobile banking application that your customers use on a daily basis. You want to add some abilities to do collaboration in there, right? So instead of filling out a form and getting an email or a mailer about student loan applications or car loans, what if you could jump right into a video session with a nice looking professional that can talk to you and actually get your signature right there on the call? That's really compelling. So you can do that with cross-launching. You can create a meeting. You can embed that URL into your application so that it launches with an Android intent, but it's going to flip over to the WebEx Meetings experience. And if you need to go back to your banking app so you can show them a form or look at some options, you got to flip back. So it's a little inconvenient. What if you could embed that collaboration experience into the mobile app? That's where we want to go. And we have a number of SDKs that let you do exactly that. The easiest one to kind of get started with and wrap your head around is based on the web, the browser-based version of WebEx Teams. If you've ever used it, I use it on a daily basis because it works on Linux, which I tend to use. But it's a pure web application. Uses WebRTC for the high-quality, secure voice and video, so no plugins, it just works. You can type in a URL on any browser that you can walk up to, log in, and get the full, complete video experience. What the WebEx Teams developer team did is break that down to what they call widgets. So parts of the user interface, like the area where you exchange messages, the part of the interface that handles the video and voice and group video sessions. Those have been broken up and hosted in the WebEx cloud, so you can very easily embed those into your web application. Right? So if you have a browser-based web application for your bank, you can have your developers identify a spot on there where you can get a square or a pop-up window, and with not much more code than this, you can suck down the whole WebEx Teams collaboration experience based on JavaScript and WebRTC, HTML5, and it will come to life right inside your web application. You have full control over who's calling who, right? So they don't have to know anyone's number. They can just say, hey, I want help with mortgages, or hey, I want help with student loans. The WebEx Teams widget can certainly make the call across the cloud for high quality, low bandwidth situations, come down through WebEx hybrid calling into your on-premise CUCM system, where you have a nice video-enabled Cisco contact center, right? So you can handle all those incoming calls. So it's a great, very lightweight, very easy to do way to bring some live collaboration into your browser-based application. So you can do screen sharing, you can do file sharing, you can do text messaging. It's persistent, right? So if you talk to the same customer a week from now, the history of everything that you did in the room will still be there. All the files that you shared earlier are still there. It's a really complete solution. An example of this that I think is pretty cool is the Salesforce integration that the WebEx Teams did. Using the Salesforce.com, their new Lightning interface, which of course is browser-based, HTML5, they actually work to embed voice and video messaging, the ability to look at all of your WebEx Teams spaces directly into the Salesforce.com UI. All right? So you don't have to have two tabs open. You don't have to switch back and forth. WebEx Teams spaces are directly associated by database link and connected with records, right? So if you have a large customer that you have a team of people working with in Salesforce.com, there may be a series of WebEx Teams spaces that are associated with just that customer, with just the people that are serving that customer. All of the notes that they're sharing in WebEx Teams about that account are all there, and it's connected. It's inside the record. So if you switch to another record, you get another set of spaces. It's contextual collaboration. So again, this is free to use. You just go turn it on in Salesforce.com. Check it out. Beyond the web, beyond PC browser-based applications, we have a Windows SDK. This is a lower level SDK, so you have complete control over the user interface. It's not widgets that have our look and feel on them. You get to place these things anywhere. The buttons are the ones that your application designers built. The user interface exposes just the features that you want to expose. And you can really, really build collaboration into a PC-based application in the context where it makes sense. Very powerful SDKs. We have these native SDKs for PC, which is in beta, Android and iOS, both well supported, easy to use, and then there's a lower level browser SDK. So if the widgets don't quite do it for you in your PC browser-based app, you can use this JavaScript SDK to get a fully broken down low-level SDK that you have complete control over the look and feel of. All these teams are developed, or all these SDKs are developed in tandem by the WebEx Teams development group. So they all get the same features at relatively the same time, we hope, more or less. And they all look and feel pretty similar, right? So if you want to do a make call, if you want to place a call to somebody, you're going to do webex.phone.dial and give the address where you want to make a call. Okay? This could be the identity. This could be the ID of a WebEx Teams group space. All right, so it could be a multi-party call, or it could just be a one-to-one call. It could be a call to a contact center, right? So an inbound 800 number or something like that. But if you learn one of these SDKs, the patterns are similar. So it's not too difficult other than wrapping your head around Android and iOS development to use these things. And like you said, you have complete control over the user interface. So for the ultimate WebEx meetings experience, of course, you want to look at our room devices. How many of you guys have any room devices in your organization? Like a room kit or a telepresence? A couple of folks? Really nice. I recently got a big DX unit for my desktop. I've been using my PC camera forever, and everybody just tells me over and over how much clearer and sharper it is. Great devices. It's really the ultimate meeting experience. But these, of course, have APIs as well. You have the ability to customize, create custom UIs and in-room controls on the Touch 10 that controls these room systems. You now have the ability to embed running code, what are called macros, JavaScript applications that run on the room device itself. So you don't need a server, don't need a data center. All you need is the device and access to some JavaScript programming skills, and you can create a user interface that does literally almost anything that you can think of. It's a full JavaScript development environment, including full control over the ability to call. Right, so you can create a meeting using the WebEx APIs. You can grab the URL for that meeting and automatically join rooms at particular times based on custom user interfaces, etc. Right, so imagine your hotshot troubleshooting team lives in a room and a big incident comes in, right? So your application is connected via things like Crestron and AMX, in-room lighting and blinds, closes the blinds, turns down the light, turns on the coffee pot, starts playing Top Gun over the audio, and joins into a killer troubleshooting session with folks sitting in front of the machine at the data center that is having a problem. All of that is possible. Really not all that difficult, using the macro capability of the room systems and X API. Macros are now available to be used for cloud registered as well as on-prem devices. There's the ability now for these devices to actually call APIs off the box. So you can create an application that runs in the room system that actually talks to APIs in the cloud or other devices on your network that have APIs that can be integrated with. So it's like having a little server environment built into the device. So again, going back to the bog standard WebEx meeting, we talked about the power of the URL for launching meetings. One thing that I've only used a couple of times, and I bet most folks have not thought too much about it, is this join by video system thingy right here, right? Looks like an email. This is a SIP URI, as it turns out. So it's a SIP address. WebEx meetings, WebEx Teams, indeed all of Cisco's voice over IP and voice and video collaboration systems, all built on SIP as an infrastructure. Indeed, SIP is the infrastructure for virtually any big collaboration voice or video system out there, not just Cisco's. So this is an important piece of information for application developers to think about. And why is that? Well, we have APIs that are available, via REST or HTTP over XML or XAPI JavaScript that control what we can control, right? So WebEx stuff. But there's a whole bunch of other services out there, that have in-room systems, that have soft clients, that have SIP connectivity ability, right? So if you use the WebEx Meetings APIs to create meetings and you get the SIP URI, you can join all of these other systems, including Cisco devices, into the meeting, right? So they're adjuncts. It's not a separate ecosystem. It's not a walled garden. All of these services I looked up this morning have SIP integrations, right? So all these services, or at least many of them, probably have APIs as well. So if you want to automate, your Zoom room system so that they can join with WebEx Teams or WebEx meetings automatically, you can do that. That's possible. because they can all dial into those meetings just using industry standard SIP. For voice, for video, even with the BFCP protocol, if they support that, for things like screen sharing and document sharing. Unified communications comes in there, and this is where I started out in Cisco, supporting CUCM and all the phones and all the APIs there. Lots of APIs that can be used to launch calls from these devices. Right? Full APIs like Tappy and JTappy that are used to build call center applications. Finesse, which is the API that drives the Cisco contact center, down to very simple APIs like web dialer or IP phone services that all they do is launch a call. But if you have that SIP URI and you can launch a call, hey, guess what? These are WebEx meetings clients. You can automate them. You can join them in there automatically. And third-party SIP devices too, right? I assume they have APIs, or some of them have APIs. So if you can program these things to make SIP calls into WebEx meetings or Teams, then these are part of the whole solution. Interoperability at its finest. And last but not least, Cisco Meeting Server. This is the on-premise meeting solution that provides the great capabilities of WebEx meetings on-premise without having to have anything in the cloud. It, of course, also has APIs. Everything has APIs these days, especially in collab. So you can create meetings on CMS, integrate those with your applications and workflows, and get people going. So I'm really excited by all these technologies. Like I said, I've been working in Cisco collaboration with partners and developers for many years, 17, 18 years. I just had my anniversary. And just in the last few years, and in fact, just in the last year, these SDKs are really coming together. They're becoming really easy to use, very powerful. They work well across all kinds of different platforms, which has always been a challenge. And all of this code, all of these SDKs, there's only one feature, I think, that's behind a paid WebEx Teams organization, which is the persistent guest. But you can start developing with all of this stuff, essentially for free. Okay? You can go reserve a sandbox from Cisco with a complete on-premise environment, start using the call control API, start developing applications without being out a dime or having to wait, 18 weeks for the stuff to get shipped to you. All the SDKs for WebEx and WebEx Teams are open source, right? So those Android SDKs, those iOS SDKs that have just a jillion high-tech functions for NAT traversal and stun and Opus video codecs that work well in variable environments. All of that code is in there. All of it is open source, which is kind of weird for Cisco, but it's there, right? So you can go in and check it. Have your security folks vet all of that code. If you spot a bug, you can fix it yourself. If you spot an enhancement, you can make an enhancement to the code base. You can even give us a pull request and we'll consider adding it to the SDK. So for developers, it's a great experience. It's easy to get engaged with. DevNet has lots and lots of content. As our SVP said a couple of years ago, we want to create a tsunami of content. I think we're getting there. We have over 100 learning labs available at learninglabs.cisco.com, where you can engage with all the APIs that I talked about today with live environments, right? You connect to a learning lab, you connect to WebEx Teams with an account. You can try these APIs out. You can embed a collaboration experience into a web page in these learning labs. So again, a great tool. As we mentioned earlier, check out developer.cisco.com/exchange. And I forgot to put App Hub on there, but what you want built may already exist. Go check it out. And then one excellent resource for WebEx developers is on GitHub. It's a community-maintained collection of sample code, tools, examples, tutorials, plugins for other frameworks, bots, all kinds of stuff that developers will find interesting that isn't necessarily developed by Cisco or vetted by us. This is a community effort there, and there's lots of really cool sample apps to get you started there. So hopefully this has inspired you to think about collaboration in context, to get a taste for what can be done when you can very easily build the ability for people to talk to each other about the things that they're talking about in the context of the applications and workflows that they're using from a minute to by minute basis. I'm here for the rest of the day. I'll be over in the Start Now area, but all these resources are available online. DevNet has a support organization that I work with if you start developing and need help. So we would love for you to start getting engaged with this. Start small, right across launch. Create some meetings automatically based on some trigger, some action that's happening in one of your applications. Explore the widgets. Embed some voice and video in a sample application. The more you know about what can be done, the more interesting use cases you can develop. So thanks a lot. Any questions at this point? All right, short and sweet. Enjoy the rest of your day. And if you have questions for me specifically, you can join the WebEx Teams conversation room dedicated to this session. It's DevNet 1489. Let me know how it's going. Let me know if you run into any challenges or have any questions. More than happy to help. Complete your survey and have a good Thursday. Thank you.